Hello everybody, this is SoundWave, and in today's video we are going to go over how to get into ships and use examples of small, medium, and large ships, locking and unlocking your ship, getting your ship flight ready, powering and turning the engine on and off, takeoffs and using third person for landing plus auto landing, what a standard heads-up display looks like in a ship, how to move around in the ship, and leaving the pilot seat. So let's get started. Alright, first we're going to start with a smaller ship, or a ship that only has one or two front seat passengers and doesn't really have an interior. So for this example, for a small ship, we're going to use the Origin 85X. And all you do is you go up to the pilot side, and you hold F, and then you'll see the option for Enter Pilot Seat, and you just left click. On a medium-sized ship like the Drake Cutlass Black here, on most of these medium-sized ships, and that'll include like the Freelancer, even like the Avenger Stalker, usually they have a rear hatch and they don't really have side hatches. So like on this one it does have side doors, but you can't exactly get up there because it's kind of off the ground. On the Freelancer you actually have a door on the left hand side that has a ladder that comes down, but most of them will just have a ramp in the back, and you just hold the F key and left click to open the door, and it will drop down the ramp here. You just go up the ramp, turn around, hold F, and left click to close the door. And that's it for that. For most larger ships like this Constellation Aquila, there's usually two ways to enter the ship. The first one, and the largest one, is usually going to be the cargo hold. So in this example, this particular ship, the cargo hold is somewhere right here. Somewhere. Oh, we're right under it. So this is usually pretty big, so wouldn't totally recommend using this because other people, while this is open, they can get in here as well. And this is actually big enough in order to put a rover, which is a land vehicle. So you can actually spawn this at a different location, put that in here, and you can actually fly with that vehicle inside this ship. The other method of getting into these ships is there's usually, right around here, somewhere near the front of the ship, there's usually an elevator that leads to the bridge, so that you can go directly over to the bridge, and for pilots and co-pilots and everything, they can get directly in there. So just be aware that there's usually two different ways in order to get into these large ships. They're not going to exactly be the same, but the cargo ship is, or sorry, the cargo door is usually in the bigger, meatier part of the ship, and the elevator for the front is usually somewhere near where the bridge is in the front of the larger ships. So once you're in your ship and you're ready to take off, you're going to want to approach the pilot seat, and you're going to see it highlight just as everything else. Hold down F and then left click to enter the pilot seat. Each ship is different on where the controls are. They can be on the left, the right, straight down, or up overhead, depending on how the controls are laid out. So you're just going to have to find them, basically. Each ship is completely different. So in order to look around for those interactable items, you're going to hold down the F key and then move your mouse around to find a highlighted thing. So in this case, we can see like engine on, engine off, and we can also see flight ready. You also have the ability to turn on the power and the engine individually. If you choose flight ready, it will turn both the power and the engine on at the same time. So we're going to go ahead and do that. And there you can see how everything is turned on. All of your displays are here. Your heads-up display is right there in the middle. Now, I don't believe that this ship has locking and unlocking. We'll have to see. I don't think it does. But on ships that have locking and unlocking, it's usually on the power menu. So you'll usually see something near power off, you'll have lock and unlock. By default, your ship is locked, so the only person that can open it are people who have permission to use it, which is, for right now, the owner, which is you. If you want to have other people open and close doors and everything inside your ship, you're going to have to unlock the ship before you can do that. So now let's go over how to actually read the heads-up display. So I'm going to go ahead and enter in the ship. And we're going to make this flight ready. There we go. Now, the first thing that we need to do is figure out how to actually move the ship. So just like with any ship, you have the standard WASD controls. You also have Q and E for rolls, and shift for afterburner. So if you think about that like running on a player, this would be like we're running on a ship. But the first thing that you need to know that we need to go over is camera controls. So that way you can see inside and outside of your ship. Just like the player movement video, you can hit the letter Z. And when you do that while you're in the ship, you can move your head around the cockpit of your ship so you can see what's going on. If you hit it again, it will lock back into place and allow you to steer. If you hit F4, it will switch to third person view. And again, if you move the mouse left or right or up or down, it will actually move the ship. If you hold, if you just hit the letter Z, you can actually move the camera around the ship and you can actually see all the loveliness of Star Citizen ships. And then you just hit Z to go back into regular mode and F4 to switch back. So let's go ahead and take off. The first thing that we're going to do to take off is hold down the spacebar, which is to go up. And that will make the ship lift off the ground. If you wanted to go back down, you start tapping the left control, and that will slowly make it descend. Remember that you can hook onto any of these rocks if they are in the way. So I would recommend looking at where you're going first. So normally what you want to do is if you're already in the air, you're going to want to switch to third person by hitting F4 and then hit Z. So you can kind of look around the ship as you're going down, because it'll give you a better idea of what you're actually going to hit and how you're going to land. So like if you see right here, you can kind of see that the ship's kind of going down. So if we hit Z again, we can push that nose back up and then center it out a little bit. And then switch back to Z so we can see how we're doing coming down. And then we made a successful landing. It's a lot easier to do it in third person. When you do stop somewhere, this is a little tip. Whether that's at like another space station or something, but you plan on getting back into the vehicle. What I would recommend is before you get out of it, hold down F and go over to engine off and click that. What that will do is that will turn off the engine so it basically sticks to the ground. Sometimes they kind of float. It's kind of a bug, but it's going to be something that's probably going to be in there for a while. But when you leave the ship and your engine is off but your power is still on, it still powers your shields. So if you turn everything off, your power and your engine, if someone comes by you and pew-pews your ship, if you don't have shields, it's going to explode almost right away. If you do have shields on, you get to kind of stay there, and it just puts a whole bunch of protection on your vehicle, so it's not as easy to die. To leave your ship, you're going to hold down H, just like we said in the player movement video. That will get you out of any seat, and that also includes other seats. So for instance, these are the pilot and co-pilot seats. In this particular ship, there's also other seats in the back that you can actually sit in. So this one has enough room for the pilot and co-pilot, as well as 6 seats back here that people can just sit in. So right now, if you look, I am just sitting in the seat. Well, kind of floating up in the air. But anyway, you get the idea. So if you want to get out of that, it's the same thing. You just hold H and then you stand back up. Alright, so we're going to go out into the atmosphere and we are going to show you the standard heads-up display that are in most of the ships. So that way we know what we're doing and we'll go over how to move. Now that we're out in space, and the reason why we went out in space is because the planet is a little too bright, so you can't really see the heads-up display here in front of us. So that's why I wanted to come out here, so you kind of have a black backdrop, so it's a lot easier to see. So there's 3 main things to pay attention to, and that is going to be, I'm going to zoom in here a little bit so it's easier to read. That's going to be your fuel level in the top left, your speed on the bottom left, and on the right hand side at the bottom is going to be your quantum fuel. So the quantum fuel is for quantum jumping, the regular fuel is for just zooming around, and your speed is a percentage of the speed, whereas the number all the way on the left hand middle is going to be the speed you're actually going in meters per second. So the way that you move around these is going to be just like anything else. You have your WASD, so you have W to go forward, which increases your speed. You have S to go down in speed. You have A to strafe left. And then you have D to strafe right. In addition to this, you also have Q to roll left and E to roll right. Now, when you're going forward, you're going to pull up the percentage of speed that you have to go. For instance, in this case, is 50% of the regular speed. If we go up to 100, you'll notice that the top speed that it tops out at in this particular ship, because each ship is different, is going to be 220 meters per second. If we want to go faster than that, then we're going to have to use our afterburner. And the way that you use your afterburner is the left shift key. And if you hold it down, you'll see that the meters per second is going exceedingly fast. And it's going to go up to our top speed. In this particular vehicle, I think it's around 1,000 something. But each ship is going to be different. There's, like, for instance, the bigger ships can usually go top around 800 or something because they're very, very big ships. The smaller the ship, the faster that it can go usually. If you're in a racer vehicle, of course, it's going to go a lot faster than most of the other ones. But the bigger that you are, generally, the lower the top speed is going to be. So we've reached our limit on this one. It's 1,115 meters per second. If you wanted to bring that back down, you're going to have to use your S key to bring back down the speed. And we'll bring it down to 50%. The blurring and the desaturation of the color that you see is if you try to go brake too fast, what can happen is just like with fighter jets as it is right now, if you're going too fast and you try to do maneuver or stop really quickly, you're going to lose all the blood pressure out of your brain and you can pass out. So in this game, if you go too fast and you try to move left or right or something like that entirely too fast, it is possible for you to black out. So just be aware that when you try to do like pew pew with another ship and you try to get fancy with your moves, it can kind of bite you in the butt. So that's about it for this video. In a future video, we will go over how to pew pew with your ship, so how to use missiles and how to use your guns. That includes primary and secondary weapons if you have them on your ship. Each ship is, of course, different. But like I said, that's going to be it for this video. Hope you support the series, and I will see you in the next one.
Legends never die when the world is calling you. Can you hear them scream?